and this is Stefania. I'll get her to introduce herself a bit more in a second. Ultimately, just wanted to do this video because I want to dive into the world of freelancing. So, from my perspective, I've worked around a lot of contractors. I worked in London quite a lot. There's a lot of contractors there, a lot of freelancers, and in growing my business, I'm on LinkedIn quite a lot, and I see that there's a big emergence of people really becoming freelancers, stepping away from the corporate world and trying to build their own company and go into companies and offer their services. Now, it's a belief of mine that I feel that that's the way that work is going to go in the future. I think we'll see less and less employees and more freelancers. We're going to see people maybe not working full time for companies as freelancers, maybe sort of 2-3 days a week, or maybe 2 or 3 different companies per week. I think the world is quite open, and the way that we work is changing so much. But the reality is there's a big shift from being an employee to being a freelancer. And Stefania is there really to sort of give her guidance. She's been through this. So I hand over to you, Stefania. Do you want to just introduce yourself, give people a bit of background, and we kick off from there?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Hi, Colin. So I'm Stefania Arca. I am Italian, and I am an architect, structural engineer, and project manager that started her career like around 13 years ago. And I have worked in Italy, Canada, UK, and then I am receiving constantly often from all over the world. And the point I'm just saying that is because I got in contact with so many realities in the workplace. And I can see that even though we are changing cultures, there are some parts that are going to stay fixed and others that are going to change. And in this way, so the workplaces are always gonna have the same structure somehow. And if you are an employee, you have always a completely different mindset from when you want to be a freelance. So what I have seen many times, I have worked in both situations as an employee and as a freelancer. So I know exactly what are the difference in the mindset. And it took me a while to switch my mindset from the employee to the freelancers. What I have seen when people want to start the freelancer career, it's just like many times they are sure that their product is whatever it matters in life. And this is true on one side, but it's more like that is not going to be true. For the simple reason that you need to sell your product, you need to communicate properly what your product is, and at the same time, you need to understand if your product is exactly what your client needs. This is something that when you're working, for example, as a freelancer, an employee, you are not supposed to take care of. You have usually a boss, a team leader, whoever it's going to be, that's going to come to you and they're going to say, I have already done all my negotiation with the client. I have already done my time management program. And I have already understood what kind of resources I have. And what I want from you is just delivering this product by this date. And this is the reality of being an employee. So you just do 9 to 5. You don't want to work any minutes more after 5. But this is happening only because someone else has already taken care of some of the things that right now, if you are a businessman, if you are a freelancer, you just need to take care of.
Okay, great. That's a great introduction. So I guess opens up a lot of questions in my mind. So I've been a consultant before, but I've done that through a company. So I worked with a smaller company, and basically I was placed in different ways. I guess the freelance is very much different, and you touched on that in the fact that you're going to have to pick up a lot of additional, not a lot of additional, a number of additional things that you might not think as an employee. What would you say is the top thing? I guess in my head, it's winning new business and actually contacting clients. That's not something as an employee you would tend to do. What's your thoughts?
I guess that the number one issue is communication.
Okay.
Because when you are working on the delivery, you are like you have a practical mind. So just for saying, I had been many times in meetings where the client was asking, why do we have the delay in the program? And people were simply saying, we have the delay because the software has a glitch and we couldn't go from the step 2 to the step 3 and whatever. And the point is just like the client is not an expert on your field and doesn't know the same word that you're using. So even though he can understand the language, because we are always talking in English, it doesn't mean that actually he understands the meaning that you have in mind. So I had been multiple times in situations where the client was just like, I'm sorry, but I can't understand these things. You are too technical. And this is one of my mantra. You are too technical and you are not able to communicate with the client. So I will say that the problem number one people have is communications. So they are talking a language and the client is talking another language. One is practical, the client wants results.
Okay. So how do you switch the mindset then? So is it just that you have to work on that? Is there any tricks around understanding it? Is it just doing it and practicing it? Is there any valuable tips you think people could take away from this? Like, how did you do it?
I feel like that it's something that is not gonna happen overnight. It's something that is gonna require, first of all, be aware that you could be wrong when you're talking, and it's not one fault. It's just like you are too focused on a mindset. The second one is trying to understand like the other side. So one of the things that I was doing at the beginning when I have realized, for example, I had this issue in communication was just like, if I'm going to be the client here, what actually I am looking for. So, for instance, one of the example that I have in my mind right now is just like as an architect, I can just sell a house to a client, and instead of saying like, this wall has these properties, it's gonna be isolated, fully isolated, you're not gonna have any issue in winter time, etc., etc. The client, for example, when he's gonna buy the house, wants to imagine the life he can live inside that house. So instead of selling the house as, this wall has these properties, gonna be great, the heat is gonna stay inside this place, you just need to sell the house in a way like, can you imagine in this little place making, I don't know, your son is going to do the first steps or anything like that. So when I'm going to say something like, can you imagine you, I don't know, in the kitchen, cooking the meal for your loved husband, I am trying to generate some emotion in the client, and the client is gonna buy because he's feeling emotion. So he can imagine it, this girl can imagine herself cooking the meal for the husband. She doesn't care about what kind of hub she's using for cooking the meal. She's just caring about putting a smile upon her husband's face. So what the first exercise that I have done on myself, which is like every time I was going on shopping, I was taking a note. What am I actually looking in this shopping? So what are the triggers that are gonna say, yes, Stefania, you need to buy this item, absolutely. And then also I have started talking with people, and I have taken notes as well, like why they were interested in buying one object instead of the other one. And based on that, I have started to change my mindset. The second step is the word. So I have worked I had tried to recall myself from time to time, listing all the negative words and see in the vocabulary what was the positive word for that word. And using, for example, the trick that when you're going to say, for example, I can say, this is complicated, but at the same time, I can say also, this is not so easy. The meaning is the same. The words are completely different. But if I'm going to keep saying, this is not complicated, this is not easy, etc., 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 and I keep repeating this, what my brain is going to do, it's just like it's going to delete the don't from the sentence. And after a while, I have just realized that my thoughts were more positive than before. And if I want to sell, I need to be positive. I need to sell something that is going to change your life in a positive way, because no one is going to buy something on the opposite, right?
Yeah. I love that, because I think I don't know what I was expecting in your answer, but I love the fact how you've actually turned that and your example in terms of, you know, going shopping and seeing why you're going to buy something. So I was reminded there's an expression, people buy with emotion, but reason with logic. So they'll purchase something through emotion. So what I love about that is that you are looking not only for yourself, but seeing, okay, when you go shopping, what is it that's coming out? And then you can reframe that. And I think we can take lessons from everywhere in our life and we can transform them into our work life. You know, I'm a big believer that, you know, people say that, you know, you have a work life and you have a home life. And whilst I agree, there's a big merging between that. You know, you don't just leave yourself at the door. You actually take yourself to work and you bring all of that knowledge and skills. So I love the way that you've done that, especially the positive wording. So something I've probably struggled with in the past was about being positive in terms of my messaging. And that's really powerful because, again, like you say, you're selling a vision and you want people to understand that. You don't want to sell something that's not true, for sure. But ultimately, you need them to understand it and know what it's going to be like. And also reaffirm that with positive words. So not only for them, but for yourself as well. Because I'm a big believer in the words that we say to ourselves kind of define our reality. So, if you're saying things are going to be negative, look what happens. That's reality sort of matches that. So I think that's great. I wasn't quite expecting that response. So I think it's a great trick, and I think something that anyone can do quite easily, right? If you go, most people, not everyone loves shopping, but if it's kind of a necessity or something. Even if you're thinking about going to the supermarket, okay, you're hungry. Why do you want that? If you want something tasty to eat. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic example.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. So I guess that's one of the key things. What would you say the next thing that we should kind of explore? What do you see people get wrong sort of more often than not?
So I mean, the communication world is very big, and I'm still learning as well. But as I said, like it's not the only thing. I will say that the other point is just like when you're shifting from employee to freelancer, you just need discipline, and you just need discipline in a way like not only in okay, I'm gonna work 10 hours per day for delivering the project. You need to work smart, and you need to keep in mind that everything in life is important. So there are 7 or 8 pillars that are gonna make you stable as a person. So the first one issue in discipline is just like stopping the freelance work, taking a walk, going to gym, meeting your friends, your family, anything like that. So keeping a balance in everything, because otherwise, in a while, it's gonna happen that many of the people are gonna go in burnout because they don't have a balance anymore. There was a book about it was Mizukami, and he was talking about when he decided to become a writer, and he used like the running as a way for going out the office when the office is your home. And he was saying like every time I'm running, I am find the creativity for keep on going with the plot of my book. So everything is important, and many people as a freelancer thinks that they are doing their job only when they are in front of the computer on the chair, working like in a traditional way we can think of. But the reality is just like even when you are out and you take 5 minutes of walk, half an hour of walk, and you take a break, that is the moment where the best ideas are gonna come up. And that is always work. Even though it doesn't look like you are in front of the computer, it's always work. Your mind is always thinking, and it's working properly.
Yeah.
So it's like discipline in this way as well.
Yeah, it's again, you're hitting quite a lot of things that I hold quite dear. So I very much sort of want to move away from the traditional way of working. So, being in an office 9 to 5, I know a lot of people do a lot more hours than that, but essentially my best ideas come when I'm away from my desk. Sitting in front of a desk or a computer, doesn't inspire you. You just kind of get the same results. So I used to be a chief happiness officer, and one of the things I used to like to do is I used to like to take walks with people. Now it seems really strange and quite counterproductive, because people go, "Oh, well, you're not behind your desk, you're not working." But I made the excuse that I wanted to see them. So I said, yeah, let's go for a walk. And it's amazing. People were a bit like, oh no, I'm going to be judged for going away from my desk. The reality was that we would go for a walk, and then you change your environment, you change your thinking. If you've been stuck on a problem in front of you, if you go and change your environment, I always think nature's a good thing, but we don't always have that. But if there's generally a park or some trees around, if you can get anywhere near something like that, it changes the way that you're thinking. And the reality for me is that you're much more productive when you change your environment, but you're always thinking. And even if you're talking about something different, in the back of your mind, something is happening. You're trying to solve that problem, or you'll find a different way to it. And 100%, even the worst thing that can come from getting away from wherever you are, and I'm just talking about being in an office, but I know you're talking about a home office or any sort of example, is that you come back with a lighter mood. I never know anyone that's come back from a walk and is in a worse mood than when they started. Even people, when it's been raining and that, they feel some nature on their face. They go, oh yeah, and it's shaken them away from the, maybe the problem that they were in, that bubble. They come back and they're much more productive. And I never used to think that way. I used to think, sit at your desk, pretend to be working so all managers thought you were good and you get a pay rise. But when you can step away from that and you're in charge of your own time and your freedom, and you don't have people looking over your shoulder, that taking a break, like you say, for like 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes, doesn't need to be not a marathon you're going for, just changes everything. And I've seen that in myself. I've seen it in so many people, and I would love for more people just to go for a walk rather than sit behind a desk.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But it's just like this is one of the shifts that you need to do from when you are an employee to when you are a freelancer. Because at the end of the day, you just need to kind of in a way break the rules. Like everything that has been told to you, forget it. It's not part of your life anymore. So yeah, I feel like this is a part of the process. And I don't believe that many people still can see actually the results. I remember, for example, before COVID, I was going to the office every day here in London. And this is not the case because it's quite sunny, but London is famous for raining. And I was going to the office by bike, and it was impossible for me going every day cycling because I was 11 miles away. And so if it was also a little spray raining, I was arriving at the office completely wet. So I was able to go to the office like 3, maybe sometimes 4 times a week by bike. And everyone was so shocked. They were just like, oh my gosh, are you doing all these miles in the morning with the cold? Oh my God, how could you? And I was just like, you need to be happy I'm coming by bike because I can handle it. Like I was arriving at the office, there was actually happier than the days where it was raining and it was mandatory for me to take the tube. I was feeling like happier in starting my day. Like the energy that I had those days was incredible. The point is just like many people were not even trying to do it. So they never experienced how good it was making this action.
Yeah. So again, you've said a couple of things I really like. And so what I'm taking away from probably the overarching discussion that we're having is moving into freelancing is really a mindset shift. If you've been an employee for most of your life, you've kind of been institutionalized a little bit like I'm going to liken it to being in prison. I'm sure people will disagree with that, but you follow the rules, you do everything else. But freelancing is you kind of need to make your own rules and set your own boundaries. And something that I'm a big advocate of is exercise, and I like routine because I know it's nice to be spontaneous, but routine allows me to build in exercise on a daily basis and, just carve out the time for certain activities that support you. Because if you're a freelancer, your time is more down to you to sort of really manage than anything else, So, but you've also got to maintain a good mindset and a healthy way of being. And I don't know a better way than doing exercise, getting out, walking, like you say, just taking a bike ride to the office. It just, I'm trying to think back to the days when I was in London, and there wasn't many people that turned up in a good mood. But the fact that you've ridden a bike in and you've got there and you're in a good mood, that's for me, that's just a win for the day. That's just that's amazing. So I know some people are scared to drive cycle in big cities. I get that, but it doesn't need to be cycle to work. It can be something else. But it's I love the idea of breaking rules, because it's not breaking rules, it's just questioning, a lot of things the ways that we've been working for a long time. And, again, I think we've got technology which allows us to be switched on all the time, which can be good, but we often are the slaves of technology. We're always checking everything all the time, looking at notifications. But the reality is we should use technology. Technology shouldn't use us. And that's easier said than done. And when you're talking about being a freelancer, it's easy to probably check your emails and messages for new work or, confirmation of, whether a client wants to work with you, etc. But I think it's about setting your day up, setting boundaries, and that's not easily done. But I think the more you're aware of yourself, your environment, how you work best, the attitude you are. So I tend to work better in the mornings. I've got more energy and more focus. The afternoon, I kind of dwindle a little bit. So I try to put most of my important work in the morning. But that takes some time and discipline. And what I've found is that whenever I worked in an office, that was never the case. I was just a slave to someone calling a meeting at 4:00. It's like, okay, you're not going to get the best out of me, but no one really cares. They're just going to call a meeting for you. So it's an interesting perspective. So okay, good, nice. Anything else? I'm conscious of time. We're only going to do 30 minutes today, but I think we'll try and wrap up. But is there anything else, if you were to leave all these millions and millions of viewers watching this, one takeaway, what would it be?
I would say find your own balance. Be ready, in failing, because not everything is gonna go as expected. Be ready that maybe you're planning your day, but it doesn't mean it's gonna go in the same direction. And that's okay. I mean, what is important to understand when you are a freelancer is just productivity doesn't need to be always 100%. As I said earlier, it could be that maybe you're just gonna go out, and in reality you're not in front of the desk, but your mind in the background, it's solving a problem for your issues as well. So I would say my mantra is, it's okay to have a bad day. It's not okay to live a bad life. So the days that are not gonna be fully positive for you, just accept them. That's perfectly fine. It happens to everyone. I just like people usually talks about the positive instead of the negative, but we all have changes to face, and that's perfectly fine. It's okay to have a bad day. It's not okay to have a bad life. So if you want to have a good life, just start working day after day for solving the issue. One brick after the other one is gonna bring you closer to where you want to go.
Well, that's great. I think that's a great message, and I think the fact that you say one brick at a time, because I think we live in a world where we want instant results. You know, we want everything to be perfect tomorrow. And that's just not the reality. So I think identifying the things that aren't serving you well, and trying to fix those. It might not be fixed overnight, but work towards it rather than let that cause you some unhappiness in your life. So I think that's a lovely message. So yeah, I think that's great. So Stefania, I guess we'll wrap up. But if anyone wants to know more about freelancing world, I know you're obviously helping a lot of people out there at the moment. So what's the best way to reach you? Is that through LinkedIn, or is there a better way?
Yeah, right now I am fully active on LinkedIn. So I can just be reached by my personal profile, Stefania Arca, or by the company profile, Exit Strategy. I would say that right now is going to be the best way.
Okay, great. So, I mean, this is the first live stream I've ever done. So I think this will go on my profile, and then I'll send it to you, and then people can just reach out to you, and I'll link you in the comments so people know where to reach you. So I appreciate your time. It was really interesting. It was, again, there were some ideas that I wasn't expecting. So I really appreciate it. So thank you very much for your time, and maybe we'll get to do another one soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this interview.
Okay, fantastic. All right, take care of yourself. Thanks, everyone. And this is Stefania. I'll get her to introduce